Hello and welcome to another episode of Dream Car Garage. Today I have a Mercedes CLK 320 CDI Sport. And the Sport part's significant because it adds this amazing body kit, AMG body kit, which really makes the car look fantastic. So straight up, I want to ask the question, is this Mercedes the most handsome car Mercedes have ever made? In this review, I'm going to talk about the car's looks, I'm going to talk about its practicality, I'm going to talk about its interior design, the tech on offer, and then finally I'm going to go through and talk about its performance and what it's like to drive. And ultimately, I'm going to give it a Dream Car Garage score out of 25. Launched in 2002, the second generation CLK is still one of the best looking coupes of the 2000s, and for me, arguably one of Mercedes' most handsome cars ever. With its arching roofline and curved flanks, the gaping grille and large front air-down crate and aggressive nose, and in sport trim, complete with 18-inch AMG alloy wheels and all-round body kit, the Mercedes manages to look elegant, muscular and sporty all at the same time. According to the figures, the CLK has a very substantial 435-litre boot, which is decent but not exceptional. That said, in reality, it seems far bigger. The CLK's practicality is further enhanced with rear seats that fold down to increase the load capacity, but unusually, the CLK seat bases also flip forward to create a flat area, making the CLK really very practical indeed. The CLK comes very well equipped. In particular, I like the multifunction steering wheel and the analog dial which houses a digital screen in the centre, which can be used to show audio and navigation as well as a full range of trick computer information. This is like the forerunner of the virtual cockpits that a lot of modern cars have now. Without doubt, the CLK has an air of quality about it, with nice touches like the electric arm that houses the front seat belts that slide forward to greet you like a butler when you start the engine. Additional kit includes auto lights, parking sensors, navigation, extensive trip computer, cruise control, which is very simple to engage, and an excellent sound system that plays CDs and allows for phone connectivity via Bluetooth. On the CLK gearbox, there are 3 settings: C for comfort, M for manual, and S for sport. First off, I really want to talk about this interior. Let me give it some comparison to give you some context. The last big diesel coupe I reviewed was a Laguna coupe 3-litre V6 turbo diesel, a beautiful car. Check out that review. And so that's the last thing I got to compare it to, because it's of a similar kind of class. The Laguna, to be fair, was a few years newer, but even so. So inside Laguna was nice and bright. It felt fresh and modern. Nice mixture of materials and colours that all seemed to work together really well. The quality was good, felt luxurious and premium. A beautiful interior design space. The plastics were nice, satin finish, beautiful. This is very different. It feels serious, austere, very businessman-like. It feels like a businessman-like environment. It's got black leather seats. It's got either leather or soft touch plastics everywhere. And even when you're looking on the center console and you sort of start to go a bit further down, you go from soft touch plastics to carpet. So it's carpeted right up the side of the center console. And same thing inside the doors. It's just, so the quality is extremely high. And this car is like 13 years old. And the seats, honestly, the seats are like they've barely been sat in. So the quality of the materials is extremely high. And that's shown by the fact that how well it's worn. So the quality is very high. It has got kind of a luxurious feel, but it feels very serious. It feels like a very serious car. It doesn't feel playful or creative or inspirational or anything like that. It just feels very solid, very businessman-like. The seats, again, they don't look that amazing. They don't look that creative, nothing fancy, look quite plain, but they really do hold you in place. It's funny, they don't look special, but these side bolsters really do hold you in place, and they've got like a pneumatic electronic air thing whereby you can pump air in and suck air out to kind of inflate either the lower back or the side bolsters or the different parts of it. So they are very technical seats, much more technical than the Renault time. I'm not a particularly slim person, but even so, I'm not particularly fat either. But these are pinching quite a bit, even on their most eased offsetting. But even though they don't feel initially the most comfortable, I've got a bit of a bad back, and I can pump a little air into my lower back, and even though it doesn't feel really comfy, I've got out of a long journey and felt okay. So they are better than they look. Everything you touch and feel and press feels like it will last 100 years. It does feel, I can't deny, it does feel solid. The little sort of like a carbon fiber silver fake weave thing, plastic. It looks a little bit tacky, but it feels rock solid. It feels rock solid. So everything in here, quality-wise, is really high. It just lacks a little bit of flair, a little bit of creativity. It just feels very business-like. Some people say you can't have your cake and eat it. Let's kind of break that statement down. The idea of having cake and eating it, let's see what that really means to understand what we're talking about. If you've got a piece of cake, you've got a piece of cake. There's a piece of cake in my hand. Use your imagination. If I've got the cake, it's in my hand. If I then think, you know what, I want to eat that cake, and I eat it, yum, 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 yum. The cake is now no longer in my hand. It's gone because I've consumed it. So I've eaten my cake. So I've not got my cake anymore. But the idea of having your cake and eating it at the same time is like a little bit of a contradiction in terms. Catch-22, an oxymoron. You can't have your cake and eat it. But let's see if that's possible within the automotive world. They say that you can't have a truly fast car that's also economical. They say you can't have a luxurious, comfortable car that's also sporty at the same time. Or can you? This car is kind of like all things to all people. And it's bundling along now at 33 miles an hour, and it's quiet, smooth, comfortable. It's absorbing the bumps and the potholes on this very bumpy, potholed, windy road very well. Much better, it must be said, than the Renault Laguna coupe that I had in a couple of years ago. But so far, no surprise. It's a Mercedes after all. If Mercedes do anything, they need to be able to have a luxurious ride from any of their cars, really. Otherwise, it wouldn't truly be on brand with Mercedes. So that's not really that much of a surprise. This car has different personalities. It's got 3 settings on the 7-speed automatic gearbox. It's got a comfort setting, which is what I'm in now. From what I can tell, I don't think it adjusts the suspension. I'm trying to read about it to see if it does, and I can't see it does it, and I can't tell if it changes suspension or not. But in comfy setting, it kind of slurs through the gears, nice and comfortably. It feels quite relaxed to drive. Then you've got a sport setting. So, for example, if I was kicking down in comfort setting, it might take about half a second to kick down if I went and pressed my foot down before it started going. If I was in sport mode, it becomes a little bit more aggressive, a little bit keener. So if it took half a second, it might take quarter of a second, or maybe a bit less. It's not instantaneous, but it's a little bit of a delay, boom, then you're gone in sport setting. In comfort setting, a little bit more of a delay, boom, you're gone. But when you really want to press on, I would say, especially on roads like this, you put it across into manual mode, and you can use the paddles on the gear shift, on the steering wheel, and then you've got quite a lot of control then. The changes are almost instantaneous. There's a very slight delay, but they're very good changes, and it allows you to really control the power. The only thing I find I don't quite like with operating the paddles on the steering wheel, which you can access at any time and actually move with the steering wheel, which is a good thing, is the fact that unless you're looking down, you can't always tell what gear you're in. With a manual gearbox, there's something about putting it into a physical location that lets your brain know, or put it in 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear. There's more to remember. With an automatic car, unless you look down and see where it says gear 2, 3, 4, or 5, or 6, or 7, sometimes it can be difficult to know exactly what gear you're in. And the car's so quiet as well, you can't always hear the engine to know when to change up. But if you really want to press on down windy roads, then for me, the manual setting is the one you really want. This car has a 3-litre V6 engine, which is an absolute monster. It's a fantastic engine. It's quiet, it's very torquey, very refined. Only when you really mash the throttle on full acceleration, you hear a bit of a grumble. The only thing is, when you do hear it, it doesn't really make a very nice sound. when you floor the throttle on the V6 Laguna Coupe, which a diesel winter test drove recently, that actually made a pretty nice sound. So that sounded nice on the hard acceleration. This one just sounds a bit gruff. It doesn't make a nice sound, but it does seriously shift itself when you get going. All right, I've got a bit of a clear road. What I'm going to do is going to press the throttle and give you an idea of the delay. So I'm going to press the throttle, one. So, ooh. This car's got a completely split personality. On the one hand, you're just cruising around, and he's cruising around quietly and slowly. When I first got into this car, my brother picked it up for me and then drove it to me. And I first got into it, it just felt really heavy. The steering in all these German cars, I don't know why, they seem to think luxury equals heavy. So whenever I get into these German cars, the steering always seems unusually heavy, especially when coming out of the Insignia Vxr, which was the last car I reviewed, which was more powerful than this, significantly so, but the steering was really light, really light, easy to use, and I was okay with that. So by contrast, the steering on this felt really heavy. And it just felt sluggish and a bit slow, and I thought, oh, all this time I was looking forward to driving this thing, and it's, you know, within the first few miles I thought, this is just like a pudding. It's big, heavy, wallowy, but it's not. Because even in comfort mode, you put your foot down, and I'm not kidding you at all, this car absolutely shifts. It feels, once it's up and running, and this is going to sound crazy, it feels as quick as the VXR. This car feels as quick as a 320 bhp 2.8 V6 turbo VXR once you're up and running. It doesn't feel as eager necessarily, but once you're up and running, the mid-range shove of this, it's serious. Ooh, this car's quick, man. My days. This car is quick. I'm not even playing with you now. All right, this car feels really quick to me, but is it actually quick? So to give you some numbers to put it in context, I test drove the Renault Laguna 3-litre V6 turbo diesel. That had a claim 0 to 60 of 7.1. I got 0 to 60 of 6.8 out of that. That's anything sub 7 for me, I would regard as a really quick car. I mean, these days you got cars that do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, 4 seconds. That's just stupid. But for me, anything sub 7 seconds is what I would regard as quick, as my personal benchmark for speed. Then I test drove and reviewed the Vauxhall Insignia Vxr, a very fast car, 320 odd bhp, 2.8 litre V6 turbo. That's a fast car, 4-wheel drive, so you can get all the power down. I tested at 0 to 60. The best time I could get out of that, maybe I was a limiting factor, was 6.4 seconds. That's a quick car. Let's see what 0 to 60, with using the same timing gear, what I can get out of this car. So I've just done 0 to 60 on the CLK, and it's got 0 to 60, the best time I could achieve, 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. That is a very fast car. 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. That's only 0.2 seconds slower than the petrol 2.8 litre V6 turbo diesel Vauxhall Insignia Vxr. Let's summarise this car now. To do that, we're going to use the 5 categories that we use on Dream Car Garage. We've got looks, we've got practicality, interior design, tech/equipment, and then performance / how the car drives. So first up, looks. I'm not ashamed to say, I really like the way this car looks. I've loved these cars' looks for a very long time, and one of the big reasons why I bought it was because I just like the way it looks so much. Now I must put this caveat onto that, in so much as what I like in particular is this car with the AMG body kit. Without the body kit, I love it so much, but with the body kit, it looks muscular and elegant and purposeful and butch. Really handsome, good looking car. One of my favorite looking coupes. So looks wise, I'm going to give this car a 5 out of 5. Practicality, it's a very practical car. It's got a big boot. And the back seats drop down completely flat. They have a 60-40 split. Additionally, and the seat bases on the back seats can lift up as well to give you a flat base as well to store stuff if you should wish. That's really practical. And you can fit adults in behind both the driver and passenger seat. You wouldn't necessarily want to travel from Land's End to John O'Groats, but you can fit in there relatively comfortably. So practicality wise, I think it's got a rank fairly high. I'm going to go 4 out of 5 for practicality. Interior design, well, I have to use a bit of a comparison to justify my marks here. The last coupe in a similar kind of ilk to this I drove was a Renault Laguna coupe, and the interior design of that was beautiful. It was elegant, it was creative. There was you could shoot. It was classy. It was flair. It was bright. It was a really nice place to be. The quality of materials was high as well. Beautiful place to be. This, by contrast, must be said, is very well built. The quality of the materials is higher than on the Renault Laguna. Everything feels literally rock solid. There's no scratchy plastics anywhere. You go from soft, from leather, to rock solid plastics, to soft touch plastics, to even on the center console carpet. So there's no scratchy anything anywhere. So it's really well built, but it just feels a bit austere. It's a bit of a somber environment, very businessman-like, which is kind of nice in a way, but it seems to lack that kind of flair or creativity. A little bit of silver reliefs here and there, without which would make the cabin a bit oppressive. So quality-wise, I rank it really highly, but overall, the feeling and the ambience, the seats as well, although they do support you in different ways, and you've got air pockets that pump up your lower back and side bolts and stuff, they don't feel massively comfortable, even though you get out a long journey and they do support your lower back. So they're kind of more comfortable than you think. Overall, interior design-wise, I'm going to have to give this car a 3.5 out of 5. Next up, we've got the car's equipment level and tech. Well, it is a Mercedes, so you do expect a decent level of kit. You've got power steering, you've got cruise control, you can attach your phone to it, you can click a button and voice control it from the steering wheel. You've got a really good trip computer. You've got this the early forerunner to the virtual cockpit with this digital display with an analog display which shows all your functions, which is a really nice touch actually. I really quite like that. The sound system is excellent. It's fairly well equipped, nothing exceptional though, it must be said. Because of the seats as well and the multi-adjustable nature of the seats with the air pockets and stuff, I'm going to go, equipment-wise for the type of car, I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5. And then finally, how this car drives. Well, this car, going back to our original analogy, is an example of having your cake and eating it. What is it? Well, it's a comfortable luxury car. If it was an out-and-out luxury car, it would ride a bit more compliantly than this. But for a coupe, which has sporting pretensions, it's a comfortable car. And yet it can really handle. It's an economical car because it's a diesel. And yet it can really shift. It's got really strong performance. Oh, wow. This car is flying. Woo! I mean, on the average, I'm averaging of just over 35 miles to the gallon, and that's with some really mixed driving. If I was to drive this car like a pensioner, crawl along, I'd be able to eke out well over 40 miles to the gallon. But with the mixed driving, the kind of stuff I'm doing on this review, a bit of blasting, a bit of cruising, I'm averaging about 35 miles to the gallon, which I think is really impressive for a car with this much performance attached to it. Performance-wise, I'm gonna have to go 4.5 out of 5. I'm really impressed with the performance of this car. My personal opinion, I really enjoy driving this car. I look forward to driving it, but it's kind of hard to put into words. I look forward to driving this car. I do enjoy driving the car, even though it's not thrilling. I like it because it just does everything well. That's the best way to describe it. It's a car that does everything well. And there you go. Mercedes CLK 320 CDI. A car that does everything well. Once again, thanks for watching Dream Car Garage. You can follow us on Instagram. I'm always posting stuff on Instagram, so you can follow us there. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, I'll see you in the next video.